Hi everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to make Hatsune Miku. This is not a beginner tutorial, unlike most of my other tutorials where they're suitable for a beginner. This one is definitely not. So this is what it looks like from the top half, and then bottom like that. So our Hatsune Miku. So again, this one is probably the most difficult thing we have ever made on my channel, but I am going to do my best to explain how to make it, and hopefully it'll all work out for you. Now let's go over our materials. The first thing you're going to need is 5 different colors of yarn. You're going to need light blue yarn, cream colored yarn or some other flesh color, pink yarn, and then you're going to need a light gray yarn and a dark gray yarn, 2 different shades of gray. And all of these yarns are the same brand. That's what I recommend doing, making sure that you get the exact same brand and weight of yarn all the way across. That way you know that your yarns are consistent. So these are all Baby Bee yarns. The Baby Bee is the baby version of Yarn Bee, which is sold at Hobby Lobby. And these are all very, very thin, light yarns. So this is a lightweight worsted yarn. And these are all baby yarns, baby weight yarns. The reason why I prefer to use baby yarns is because you can use regular weight yarns with this. That's perfectly fine. But if you do, it's going to end up really, really big. Because in order to get a lot of detail, you have to use a lot of stitches, and the more stitches you use, the bigger it's going to be, which is why we're using baby weight yarn, so that it kind of is this good size, right? So it's like that compared to my hand. Now, if you use a heavier weight yarn, your piece is going to end up bigger. That's really all that's going to happen. But for this, I'm using baby weight yarn. The next thing you're going to need is a crochet hook. I am using a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook. This is a size E crochet hook. Now this yarn actually recommends that you use a size 5 millimeter crochet hook. So this is considerably smaller than the yarn recommends, but I definitely recommend that you use a smaller hook than what your yarn recommends so that you can get your stitches nice and close together. The next thing you are going to need is a pair of 8 millimeter safety eyes. And these are a pretty common size. You can find them at like Joann Fabrics. I think you can find them at Hobby Lobby. You can find them at any craft store that has doll making supplies. The next thing you're going to need are pins, so we can pin things in place. And then the last thing you're going to need is a large needle or an embroidery needle, so that we can sew everything together. And that is everything you need to make Hatsune Miku. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is make the head, and we're going to be starting with our blue yarn. First, we need to make a slip knot by wrapping the yarn around our finger and pulling up a loop through the center. Stick your hook through and adjust it down. Now we're going to chain 4. To chain, we yarn over and pull the yarn through the loop on our hook. So we've just chained 1. Yarn over, chain 2, 3, and 4. Now we're going to join these chains together to make a loop. So we stick our hook through the first chain that we made, pull our yarn through, and then pull our yarn through again to slip stitch. Now we're going to single crochet 6 into the center of this ring. So find the center, stick your hook through the center, pull your yarn back through, yarn over, and pull through both loops on your hook. And we've just single crocheted 1. Now we're going to do this 5 more times. So stick your hook into the center, pull your yarn back through, and single crochet 2, back into the center for 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we've just single crocheted 6. Now we're going to do an increase round, and we're going to increase from 6 to 12. When we increase, we single crochet 2 in one stitch, so that one stitch becomes 2 stitches. So we're going to increase in every stitch so that we can go from 6 to 12. So this time, don't stick your hook into the center. Stick your hook through this first stitch that we made. Pull your yarn back through and single crochet 1. Then go back into that same stitch for your increase for 2. In the next stitch, we single crochet 3, and in the same stitch our increase for 4. In the next stitch is 5, and in the same stitch our increase for 6. In the next stitch is 7, and in the same stitch our increase for 8. In the next stitch is 9, and in the same stitch our increase for 10. In the next stitch is 11, and in the same stitch our increase for 12. So we've just single crocheted 12. Now we're going to do another increase round, and we're going to increase from 12 to 18 stitches. So this time we're going to increase on every multiple of 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and 18 are going to be our increase stitches. So in the first stitch, we single crochet 1. In the next stitch, 2. And in that same stitch, our increase for 3. Next is 4. In the next stitch is 5. And in that same stitch, our increase for 6. Next is 7, 8, and in the same stitch, our increase for 9. 10, 11, and in the same stitch, our increase for 12. 13, 14, and in the same stitch, our increase for 15. 16, 17, and in the same stitch, our increase for 18. So we've just gone from 12 to 18 stitches. Next, we're going to do another increase round, and we're going to increase from 18 to 24 stitches. So we're going to increase on every multiple of 4. So in the first stitch, we single crochet 1. In the next stitch is 2. In the next stitch is 3. And in the same stitch, our increase for 4. In the next stitch is 5. In the next stitch is 6. In the next stitch is 7. And in the same stitch, our increase for 8. 9, 10, 11, and in the same stitch, our increase for 12. 13, 14, 15, and in the same stitch, our increase for 16. 17, 18, 19, and in the same stitch, our increase for 20. 21, 22, 23, and in the same stitch, our increase for 24. So we've just gone from 24 stitches, or sorry, we've just gone from 18 stitches up to 24 stitches. Now we're going to do another increase round, and we're going to increase from 24 stitches to 30 stitches. So we're going to increase on every multiple of 5, which means our increases are 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. So in the first stitch, we single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the same stitch, our increase for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and in the same stitch, our increase for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and in the same stitch, our increase for 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and in the same stitch, our increase for 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and in the same stitch, our increase for 25. Okay, so we just single crocheted 25 of these 30 stitches, and we're about to change yarn colors. So in order to change yarn colors, we need to start incorporating our new yarn color, which is going to be cream, or whatever color you're using for the flesh tone. So all we need to do is take it and place it between our hook and our working yarn so that the tail, the short tail, is going to be coming out this side, and then the part that's connected to the ball will continue moving in the direction that we're going. So all you do is you place it between your hook and your working yarn, and that's it. And that's all you need to do. So when you continue to crochet, all you have to do is make sure that your new yarn color is between the stitches. So what I mean by that is, here we're going to single crochet for 26. So we go through, pull our blue yarn through, and as you can see, this is still between. And then when we yarn over, we've just locked it into place. So we pull our blue yarn through, and as you can see, this tail is coming through the middle of the stitch that we've just made. So it's kind of locking it into place. So that was 26. Next is 27, 28, 29, and you can see how I've worked this in. So we've just single crocheted 29, and this next stitch is going to be our last increase for 30, but in order to, this is where we change yarn colors. So this is going to be a little bit special. So what you do is you stick your hook through and pull your blue yarn through, but instead of yarning over with your blue yarn, we're going to yarn over with the cream colored yarn and pull the cream colored yarn through. And we've just changed yarn colors. So now all we're going to do is swap the positions of the blue yarn and the cream colored yarn. So now the blue yarn is our yarn that we're weaving in, and our cream colored yarn is our working yarn. So for this next round, we're going to single crochet just continuously around for the next 7 rounds. But first we're going to work this blue yarn tail in. So we're going to do it the exact same way that we worked in our cream colored yarn. So we just single crochet 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this is probably good enough, so we can cut this blue yarn because we're not going to be using it anymore. So just cut it like that, and we're all done with that. Now, this is forming the head, and one thing that you're going to notice is that, oh, there's blue on top and then she's completely bald in the back. we're going to make a separate wig cap to go on the back, but we're going to do that separately so that we don't have to keep changing our yarn colors. There is a way that you can do this, and you can just change yarn colors and have the back be blue and the front be cream. But for this tutorial, it's not a very elegant thing to do, and it's very, it's just very messy. So for the sake of easily doing this tutorial, we're gonna crochet a separate wig cap, which I will show you just immediately after we're done with the head, so that it doesn't become too complex. But from here on out, all we're gonna do is single crochet continuously around for 7 rounds. So I will meet you back here when that is done. So I've just come to the end of my 7 rounds, and now we're gonna do an increase round. And we're gonna increase from 30 stitches up to 36 stitches. So we're gonna increase on every multiple of 6. So we single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in the same stitch, our increase for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and in the same stitch, our increase for 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and in the same stitch, our increase for 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and in the same stitch, our increase for 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and in the same stitch, our increase for 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and in the same stitch, our increase for 36. So we just increased to 36 stitches. Now, one thing that I'm going to tell you, from here on out, the head is going to start looking a little misshapen. You're going to sit there and think, wow, that is a terrible shape for a head. But I promise you, once we get the wig cap on and once we get all the hair on in place, it's gonna look like a very cute regular head. But right now, it's gonna start to look a little long, a little egg-shaped, not great, but I promise you it will all come together in the end. So that's usually how stuff like this works, is it looks like crap for a really long time, and then right at the last second everything comes together and it looks good. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 rounds of 36 stitches continuously. So we're just going to single crochet 36 stitches for 3 rounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a stitch marker in, or a scrap piece of yarn in my case. I actually have the yarn tail from my first little bit that I'm just going to pull up and stick through so that I know where my starting place is. And then once I have about 3 rows up from my stitch marker, then I will stop. So I'm just going to crochet continuously around until I have 3 rows up from my stitch marker right here. Okay, so I've just come to the end of my 3 rounds, and as you can see, I have 1, 2, 3 rows up from my marker. So now I'm going to pull my marker out. And now we're going to do another increase round, and we're going to increase from 36 stitches to 42 stitches, which means we're going to increase on every multiple of 7. So we single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the same stitch, our increase for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and in the same stitch, our increase for 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and in the same stitch, our increase for 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and in the same stitch, our increase for 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and in the same stitch, our increase for 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, and in the same stitch, our increase for 42. Okay, so we just single crocheted 42. Now we're going to do another round where we just single crochet 1 in every stitch, and we're just going to do that for 1 round. So single crochet 42. Okay, so I've just come to the end of my 42 stitches, and now we're going to do decrease rounds. So we're going to make it so that our work becomes more narrow and we form the closing for the head. So in this first decrease round, we're going to decrease on every multiple of 7. So we're going to decrease from 42 stitches down to 36 stitches. Now when I do my decrease round, even though I'm going to end up with 36 stitches, I'll still count up to 42 stitches. That way I can accurately keep track of my decreases. So if you see me counting up to 42 and you think, but wait, I thought we had 36 stitches, that's why. Okay, so we're going to single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to decrease. I say we decrease on every multiple of 7, but really we decrease on the multiple of 7 and also the stitch before that, because we're going to make it so that 2 stitches become 1 stitch. So the way we decrease is we do an invisible decrease, which means that we're going to crochet through the front loop of each stitch. So we have stitch number 6 and stitch number 7 right here. And each stitch has 2 loops to it, right? But this time we're only going to go through the front loop of stitch number 6, and then we're going to also put our hook through the front loop of stitch number 7, so that we have 3 loops on our hook. We have our working yarn, the front loop of stitch number 6, and the front loop of stitch number 7. We're going to yarn over and pull through the front loop of stitch number 7, through the front loop of stitch number 6, then yarn over and single crochet, and we've just done a decrease. So we just decreased in stitch number 6 and stitch number 7. So next is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then stitch number 13 and stitch number 14 are decreased together. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, then stitch number 20 and stitch number 21 are decreased together. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, then stitch number 27 and stitch number 28 are decreased together. And again, if you need help with these stitches, you can always refer to my basic stitches for Amigurumi video, and I go over really slowly how to do these decreases. if you need extra help. So next is 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and then 34 and 35 are decreased together. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, and then 41 and 42 are decreased together. So now we've gone from 42 stitches down to 36 stitches. Next, we're going to do another decrease round, and we're going to decrease from 36 stitches down to 30 stitches. So we're going to increase on every multiple of 6 and also the stitch before that. So we're going to decrease on 5 and 6, 11 and 12, 17 and 18, 20 and 24, or sorry, 23 and 24, 29 and 30, and 35 and 36 are going to be decreased together. So we single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 and 6 are decreased together. 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 11 and 12 are decreased together. 13, 14, 15, 16, and then 17 and 18 are decreased together. 19, 20, 21, 22, and then 23 and 24 are decreased together. 25, 26, 27, 28, and then 29 and 30 are decreased together. 31, 32, 33, 34, and then 35, oops. Ooh, sorry about that. And then 35 and 36 are decreased together. So as you can see, the head looks weird. It definitely kind of looks a little bit like an egg or a bell or something like that. Don't worry, once we stuff it and put the hair on and everything like that, it's not gonna look like that anymore. So don't worry, this is okay. This is an okay shape to have. All right, so we just decreased from 36 stitches down to 30 stitches. Now we're gonna do another decrease round, and we're gonna decrease from 30 stitches down to 24 stitches, which means we're gonna decrease on every multiple of 5. So we single crochet 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5 are decreased together. 6, 7, 8, and then 9 and 10 are decreased together. 11, 12, 13, and then 14 and 15 are decreased together. 16, 17, 18, and then 19 and 20 are decreased together. 21, 22, 23, and then 24 and 25 are decreased together. 26, 27, 28, and then 29 and 30 are decreased together. Ooh, coming apart. One more time. And there we go. Okay, so we've just gone down from 30 stitches down to 24 stitches. Next, we're going to decrease again, and we're going to decrease from 24 stitches down to 18 stitches. So we're going to decrease on every multiple of 4, which leaves us decreasing on numbers 3 and 4, 7 and 8, 11 and 12, 15 and 16, 19 and 20, and 23 and 24 will be our decreased stitches. So we single crochet 1, 2, and then 3 and 4 are decreased together. 5, 6, and then 7 and 8 are decreased together. 9, 10, and then 11 and 12 are decreased together. 13, 14, and then 15 and 16 are decreased together. 17, 18, and then 19 and 20 are decreased together. 21, 22, and then 23 and 24 are decreased together. So we're not quite done with our decreases yet. We're going to do one more decrease round, but before we do that, we're actually going to stuff the head and put on the eyes. That way, because our next decrease round is going to make it so small that it's going to be hard to stuff. So I'm going to put a piece of scrap yarn in my loop. So that my stitches don't come out. This is going to prevent it from coming out. Okay, so first I'm going to put on the eyes. So I've got my safety eyes right here. I believe these are either 8 or 10 millimeter safety eyes. I don't remember exactly what. I just have this big set of safety eyes and it doesn't say what size they are, but I think they were ranging from 6 to 12 millimeter safety eyes, so maybe these are 8 millimeter safety eyes. And I'm going to put these safety eyes in between rows 16 and 17 from the top. So I like to make it so that this place where I change my yarn is actually going to be in the back, so it'll be covered by the hair. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So in between rows 16 and 17, I'm going to place my first eye. And you don't have to place your eyes here if you don't like, or if you don't want. And actually, now that I'm looking at this, I think I'm going to put it one row lower, actually. And again, this is like the craziest looking head ever. Don't worry. It'll be better. Let's see. Actually, yeah, I think I'm going to stick between rows 16 and 17. Okay? And don't put your backs on yet. Make sure that the eyes are exactly where you want them to be before the backs go on. And then I'm going to put them, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stitches apart, 10 or 12 stitches apart, depending on how you like them, because you don't want them to be too close together, but you don't want them to be on the sides of her head either. All right, so once you're satisfied with the position, put your back on. And now we can stuff the head. So you can take your yarn scraps or your toy stuffing and stuff the head. I have a couple yarn scraps here first that I'm going to put in. And make sure that you don't get your working yarn in there, or else it's going to be really hard to get out. Okay, so once you feel you have enough stuffing in, you can just kind of squish things around until they come into place and, you know, readjust, because sometimes the backs of your eyes can get snagged on the yarn and then they start kind of folding in like this. You just readjust everything. Make sure nothing's pulling on the backs of your eyes. And once you're happy with the amount of stuffing, you can pull our loop up and finish decreasing. So I'm going to put this little yarn scrap in here. Okay, so we put our hook back through. And now we're going to do one more decrease round. And we're going to decrease from 18 to 12 stitches. So we're going to decrease on every multiple of 3. So we single crochet 1, and then 2 and 3 are decreased together. 4, and then 5, 5 and 6 are decreased together. It gets a little more difficult the smaller it gets, and now that it's stuffed, it becomes a little bit less easy to decrease. So that was 6. Next is 7, and then 8 and 9 are decreased together. 10, and then 11 and 12 are decreased together. 13, and then 14 and 15 are decreased together. 16, and then 17 and 18 are decreased together. And actually, you know what I'm thinking? I'm gonna do one more decrease round. I know I said that this was our last decrease round, but I'm actually gonna do one more decrease round. And we're just gonna decrease every stitch together. So 1 and 2 are decreased together. 3 and 4 are decreased together. 5 and 6 are decreased together. 7 and 8 are decreased together. 9 and 10 are decreased together. And last one, 11 and 12 are decreased together. That way it's a little more closed on the bottom, and I don't have to worry about my stuffing falling out yet. When we sew this to the head or to the body, you're not gonna be able to see this portion anymore, which is why I'm not actually like taking my knitting needle or taking my embroidery needle and sewing it shut. Normally I would sew up the bottom portion, but this one's not gonna be seen by anybody, so I don't need to make it look as pretty. So then we just slip stitch to finish off and break our yarn, pull it on through, and we have this part of the head. You can squish it around to try and get the shape a little bit better. Yeah, so right now it just kind of looks like a weird misshapen egg. Next we're gonna do the wig cap so that the back portion is gonna be covered in blue as well. And then we're gonna put on the bangs and all that, and it's gonna start to look a lot better. So it's not gonna look like an egg forever. So don't worry, it's gonna be nice and cute. All right, so now we're gonna do the wig cap, and we need to start with our blue yarn. And just like when we started originally, we're gonna make a slip knot by wrapping the yarn around our finger and pulling a loop through the middle. Now we stick our hook through, and we're gonna chain 4. So we yarn over, chain 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we're gonna join these together. So in this first chain, we're gonna stick our hook through, and slip stitch to join these chains together to make a loop. Ooh. All right, so slip stitch. There we go. Now we're going to single crochet 6 into the center of this ring that we just made. So stick your hook through the center, pull your yarn through, single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, next we're going to do an increase round, and we're going to increase from 6 to 12. So we're going to increase in every stitch. So in this first stitch, we single crochet 1, and in the same stitch our increase for 2. In the next stitch is 3, and in the same stitch our increase for 4. In the next stitch is 5, and in the same stitch our increase for 6. In the next stitch is 7, and in the same stitch our increase for 8. In the next stitch is 9, and in the same stitch our increase for 10. In the next stitch is 11, and in the same stitch our increase for 12. So we've just increased from 6 to 12. Next we're going to do another increase round, and we're going to increase from 12 to 18, which means that we're going to increase on every multiple of 3 until we reach 18. So in the first stitch we single crochet 1, in the next stitch is 2, and in the same stitch our increase for 3. In the next stitch is 4, 5, and in the same stitch our increase for 6, 7, 8, and in the same stitch our increase for 9, 10, 11, and in the same stitch our increase for 12, 13, 14, and in the same stitch our increase for 15, 16, 17, and in the same stitch our increase for 18. So we've just increased from 12 to 18 stitches. Next we're going to do another increase round, and we're going to increase from 18 to 24 stitches, which means we're going to increase on every multiple of 4. So in the first stitch we single crochet 1, 2, 3, and in the same stitch our increase for 4, 5, 6, 7, and in the same stitch our increase for 8, 9, 10, 11, and in the same stitch our increase for 12, 13, 14, 15, and in the same stitch our increase for 16, 17, 18, 19, and in the same stitch our increase for 20, 21, 22, 23, and in the same stitch our increase for 24. So we've just gone from 18 to 24 stitches. In this next round we're going to increase again, and we're going to increase from 24 to 30 stitches, which means we're going to increase on every multiple of 5. So in the first stitch we single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the same stitch, our increase for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and in the same stitch, our increase for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and in the same stitch, our increase for 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and in the same stitch, our increase for 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and in the same stitch, our increase for 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and in the same stitch, our increase for 30. So we just increased from 24 to 30 stitches. So in this next round, we're going to do another increase round, and we're going to increase from 30 stitches up to 36 stitches, which means we're going to increase on every multiple of 6. So we single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in the same stitch, our increase for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and in the same stitch, our increase for 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and in the same stitch, our increase for 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and in the same stitch, our increase for 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and in the same stitch, our increase for 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and in the same stitch, our increase for 36. All right, so we just increased from 30 to 36 stitches. In this next round, we're going to increase again from 36 stitches to 42 stitches. So we're going to increase on every multiple of 7. So we single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the same stitch, our increase for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and in the same stitch, our increase for 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and in the same stitch, our increase for 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and in the same stitch our increase for 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and in the same stitch our increase for 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, and in the same stitch our increase for 42. Alright, so we've just increased to 42 stitches. Now we're just going to single crochet continuously around for 2 rounds. So for 2 rounds that would be 84 stitches, or 2 rounds of 42 stitches. 84. Okay, so I've just come to the end of my 2 rounds and we are all done with this piece. So we're just going to slip stitch. And then we're going to break kind of a long tail because we're going to use this tail to sew the wig cap onto the head. So pull it through. And now we're going to take our head right here and our pins, pin it in place. So what you want is for the wig cap to be in the center on the back of the head so that it's the same amount, and also not like completely like this, just kind of like that a little bit, and also centered between the eyes. And again, this is one of these things where it's just going to look kind of weird for the first little bit, and then once everything is all in place, it'll start to look a little better. So don't worry, everything's going to come together. So pin it into place. So now we're going to take our embroidery needle and we're going to thread our blue yarn through. And we're just going to sew the wig cap to the head. I like to sew using the back loops only, but you can do it however you like it. And just make sure that you stretch it nice and tightly over the head so that it's not loose in the back. Okay, so once you have everything sewn on, you can take the pins off. And then I am going to weave this tail into the body. You don't have to do that. You can use it to sew on the next portion that we're going to sew on, but I like to sew on this next portion with fresh yarn. So I'm going to weave this into the body just to make sure it doesn't come out.